G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going through my round 9 tips and predictions, as well as reviewing round 8 to see how many tips I got correct, where I'm on the tipping comp, and to go over the big calls and the punishments. So I'll start off obviously with round 8. We got 6 out of 9, and we were in the top 38% of all tippers this round, which as of late I'll take that because I have been really disappointing in my tipping. But it wasn't a great start. I tipped the Dogs, Power got up, I tipped the Dockers. Then I got the next two wrong in Collingwood and Sydney. Collingwood was a bit of a roughie, so yeah, fair enough. But the Swans, that was a huge upset. The Suns obviously got up at the SCG. But I finished off the round quite well, honestly. Geelong beat the Giants, tipped them. Essendon was a great tip. I tipped them to get up against the Hawks when no one really saw them winning that one. Then I got Brisbane obviously correct, Melbourne correct, and Carlton correct to get a pretty nice 6 out of 9, if I'm going to be honest. The big calls, again, weren't great, but I got another pretty solid one right. The Essendon Hawthorn game, I said that the Bombers would be behind at every break and win the game, and they indeed did that. So that is pretty solid. Let's go on the tipping video to see the punishments. They got the most likes. Oh, King Gold, he's an idiot. He got the most likes and he edited his comment. You can't be doing that. I'm not going to count King Gold's. He had a comment that I didn't want to do, and then he edited his comment. So don't edit your comment at the end of the round. I'm not actually going to count that. Geordie's actually had the most likes, which was go to Bunnings and buy Lollipop Man signed from Bunnings. I don't know how much money that cost, to be honest, but that sounds pretty funny. Do a fake tipping video for your next round with a mate and make awful calls. And then I think the third most likes that I can genuinely do would be Zay Burnell's, and you're not allowed to tip the Saints for the rest of the season. Couldn't have actually done that last punishment that I was meant to do at Bunnings, but I don't really have any excuses for next week. Can't get COVID twice in a row, can I? Spelled tipping wrong on the 5th one there. What do I land on? And it is not the stop sign, it's the tipping. So I've got to make a fake tipping video for next week. And I do want to make, obviously, a real one for this channel. So I'll make 2 tipping videos, but one's going to be my second channel. And we're going to try and fool a lot of people into thinking that, you know, I'm actually being serious with a few of my tips. Alright, now that we've got that out and done with, let's get straight into the round 9 tips. We've got a few pretty juicy matchups for round 9, and the ladder is taking shape. I'm having a look at it right now. I'm a bit disappointed with the Saints. They are slipped to 7th. Anyways, the first game's between Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium on a Friday night. Actually a pretty good game for a Friday night. Still not too sure if I'll stream it or not. Might go to the game. Obviously Collingwood last week played the Tigers. The Tigers have continued their great form lately and obviously got done by 27 points. But I didn't think the Pies were horrible. They still played their good brand of footy. They just got outdone by what it seems like a better side at the moment in terms of, you know, where the two sides are at. But yeah, Collingwood still scored a pretty decent score of like 87 it was. So even when losing, they're still scoring quite heavily. But that was their biggest defeat of the season, 27-point loss. The Bulldogs again continue their disappointing start to the season, dropping the game against the Power. And we all really believe that if the Dogs were really a true top 8 contender, or particularly top 4 contender, it was a must-win for them to beat the Power. But now there's only 4% separating the two sides on the ladder between the Dogs and the Power, which it's a bit of a reality check for the Dogs after the Power started 0-5. But yeah, I mean, the Dogs could blame it on injuries, but at the end of the day, they were just not that good after quarter time. So this one's a tough one. The Dogs are still favourites here, and it probably makes sense. How much can you trust the Pies? Are they going to start falling because they're a young side? But you could say the same thing with the Dogs. They have been very average this year, but I just feel like they can get it done against the Pies. After they lose, they always respond, it seems like, with a win. I don't see it being a very convincing win, but it's going to be a good game of footy in my opinion. I'm going to go the Dogs to win it by 6 points. My big call will be that there are 10 or more goals combined in the first quarter. So the next game, Saturday, MCG. We've got Hawthorn taking on Richmond. I know a few people that still really don't rate the Hawks, that still rate them as a bottom 2-3 side, particularly another fellow Richmond supporter. I don't really see why everyone's hating on the Hawks so much. They're an impressive side, or what we've seen early on. They've shown very impressive signs, but unfortunately for the Hawks, they aren't able to run out games late. We saw it a couple of times this season already against the Swans particularly, and now the Bombers, particularly against the Bombers, a side that just have been underperforming this year. The fact that they were controlling that game for pretty much all of it, and then that last quarter they conceded 8 goals in that last quarter to the Bombers of all teams and lost that one by 27. So Hawthorn were 100% in that winnable position. They should have got the job done, in all honesty, but they didn't. The Tigers, on the other hand, they pretty much controlled the game from the first bounce, arguably. They were, in a winnable position for most of it. The Pies didn't necessarily challenge at all after quarter time. I mean, after halftime, the closest that they were to winning was pretty much the end of the game, where they cut back the margin to 22 points. So right now, the Tigers are definitely in the better form, and they're probably the team you got to be tipping. But it's just a bit of a tough one. The Tigers have been extremely inconsistent this year, but have they now found their consistency, particularly with players like Cochin and Martin back into their lineup? Are the Tigers back? I don't think they're back to full potential, but are they back to winning business? I'm not too sure. But the Tigers, for me, seem like the solid tip to go for. But I go the Tigers by 14. And again, Tom Lynch is going to have 8 or more scoring shots. So we head over to Blundstone Arena. We take we take a plane from Melbourne to Hobart, and we have the North Melbourne Kangaroos take on Port Adelaide. And it's been a pretty tough start to the season if you're a North fan. 55.6 percentage, 1 win, and that was only against the Eagles. I mean, I guess this is a little bit easier, this game. Port Adelaide haven't been great so far this season. They've started extremely poor, but I feel like there's something in the power this year that could still play finals, particularly considering that they're only 11th at the moment and they've won their last 3. They have turned things around brilliantly, the power. I've got no idea how they've actually managed that after their poor start to the season, but they're 3 wins in a row, looking for 4. They should get the 4th, let's be real. Everyone beats North Melbourne these days. North haven't shown many signs at all. They only scored 25 against the Dockers last week. Yeah, I got to go Port in this one. Pretty simple stuff. I know it's at Blundstone, so I don't think it'll be a belting, but it'll still be not a smashing, but a comfortable win. 39 points I'll go the Port by, and they'll have 33 or more scoring shots to my big call. Next game, we have St Kilda taking on Geelong. This is actually the most even, or one of the most even games when you look at the odds. The Saints obviously, couldn't get it done against the benchmark of the competition in the Ds. I expected more. That start, though, it just really cost us. And I definitely have to say that was the best footy the Ds have played since the grand final. You can't dispute that if you've been watching the game. Like, they completely controlled the game, the Ds. They were just doing everything right. We weren't even that bad on our own. Like, our pressure was good early. We just, I don't know, just weren't good enough. We weren't good enough for long enough. Although after we were down by 47, we actually controlled the game for a lot of the second half, particularly in that third quarter. We probably almost could have been within 1 or 2 goals if we would have kicked straight. But at the end of the day, the Ds were just the better side. I guess it was a good game at the end of the day not to go to. So the Saints couldn't get the job done. The Cats obviously did get the job done in a very, very mediocre game of footy for a neutral against the Giants at Manuka. But they got it done by like 50 points. Pretty good stuff from the Cats. Cameron kicked 6 again. It's going to be a worry for the Saints. Cameron and Hawkins up forward. We haven't met the Cats since 2015, but this is a must-win game for us, honestly, if you want to stay in contention with the top 4. I'm going to actually tip us. People saying, it's biased. I've seen a lot of other people tip the Saints. It's definitely a winnable game. The Cats, they're only beaten or demolished average to bad sides this year. They haven't played amazing against the top side. So it's a difficult game, but Saints for me in a pretty close one. 8 points we win by. And the Saints win after trailing at halftime as my big call. So next game, we've got Sydney taking on Essendon at the SCG. If I would have told you before, the end of round 8, that coming into round 9, one of these sides would have gotten a win the week before and the other one would have lost. It would have been pretty obviously the Swans winning against the Suns and the Bombers losing. But no, the other way around. The Bombers obviously got their second win of the season and their most impressive win of the season, that's for sure. A bit sloppy, especially in that first half, honestly, their skills, but something clicked for them. I don't know what it was. Was it a spark? Was it like, let's just beat the Hawks. Let's just do it. Produced their best quarter of the season, kicked 8 goals, won the game. The Swans, on the other hand, I watched that game. Every time they tried to go forward, the Suns cut them off. I would have been absolutely livid as a Swans fan, genuinely. But they dropped down to 6th, and this one, now they've got to win. It's sort of a must-win game for the Swans in this one. The Bombers almost have nothing to lose. after that great win against the Hawks. So I will definitely go the Swans in this one, although it could be a close game than what we might think. The Swans and the Bombers always play off in thrillers, it seems like. But I think the Swans win this one by 19. And my big call will be that the Bombers kick 5 or more behinds than goals. Next game, we've got Adelaide v Brisbane at the Adelaide Oval. I think this is a pretty easy game. Of course, Adelaide last round were average against the Blues. I didn't watch any of this game. Instead, I was on Wordle. Shout out to the Wordle game. But yeah, Adelaide, apparently they were in the contest for the first half, then just faded out of the game quite tremendously against the Blues, honestly. They got done by 10 goals. The Brisbane Lions, we all expected them to belt the Eagles by over 100 points. The weather wasn't great, so that played into the Eagles' hands in terms of it not being a smashing. And they weren't amazing, the Blinds. I didn't watch the game, but from what I got told, they weren't amazing with their skills. It didn't seem like the game where they really wanted to take the foot off the accelerator. Although in the last quarter, they kicked 7 goals, I'm pretty sure. But it wasn't that total smashing we expected because they only kicked 16 goals. Brisbane win this game pretty comfortably. Adelaide have been quite uncompetitive the last couple of weeks. We're really seeing where Adelaide truly are right now into the season. I think I go the Lions in this one by, I'd say 44 points. It'll be another belting in my opinion. So Brisbane 44, big call. Zach Bailey has 20 or more touches and 3 or more goals. Next game we've got Gold Coast and Fremantle at Metricon Stadium. Fremantle are absolutely flying. They're 8-1. The odds for the flag are $9 for the Dockers, and they've got the highest percentage in the league of 153.2. It helps when your team that you play against the week before only scored 25 and you score over 100. The Suns obviously recorded a pretty good win against the Swans. They've been alright, the Suns, in terms of their wins. They've beaten the Swans and the Blues this year. Two sides that look like they're definitely making finals this season. The Suns are that weird team that just pinch a win when you don't expect them to. And I honestly can see them winning this game against a red-hot Freo because, again, they're almost due for another loss. You know, how much of this are we going to see before the Dockers start fading out, or is all this real? Because right now, if you're not on the Freo train, then I reckon get on it now because I think the Dockers are here to stay. They're going to be a good side for a while. But, yeah, in terms of who I'm going to tip, obviously the Gold Coast were really impressive against Sydney last week. Same with the Dockers. I don't know if they were at their best. They looked a bit sloppy at times, but when you're playing North Melbourne, you don't have to be at your best to win games, particularly by a lot. So I'm going to go the Dockers in this one. It's a safe bet. It really is. Safe bet to go for the Dockers. Go them by 23 points. And a big call, the Suns kick the first 2 goals of the game. Next game of the round, second last game this is between GWS and Carlton. It's pretty even. Look at the odds on ESPN Footy Tips, $2 to $1.80. The Blues are currently flying. They're 6-2 for the first time. Don't know I think it would have been since 1999. Obviously, they made the prelim that year, or they made the granny that year. The Giants continue their poor start to the season. Really disappointing performance against the Cats. A lot of people expected them to win that. Considering the odds were quite even to start off the game. But from this first bounce, it seemed like the Giants were just second to the ball. They didn't lead for any of that game. It was just Geelong who led from the first bounce and then continued to extend that lead to ultimately win it by 53 points. Whereas Carlton, they sort of did the same thing against the Crows. Looking at the goals, Curnow kicked 6 goals. Mackay kicked 3. You know, they're looking pretty good at the moment, the Blues. But in this game, I think I might tip the Giants. I know it's a bit of a weird one. Like, you know, why would you tip the Giants right now if you look at form? But I just feel like, as of late, every time the Giants and the Blues play off, regardless of where the two sides are off the ladder, at Giants Stadium, the Giants always seem to get the chocolates. We saw what happened last year. We saw what happened a few years ago. I know the Blues are a completely different side this year, but something still tells me the Giants get the edge in this one. The Giants by 20 for me, and I'll go the Giants to lead by 80% of the game as my big call for this one. Last game of the round, we've got a completely demoralised West Coast Eagles outfit versing the team to beat at the moment, Melbourne Demons. They're full of confidence. They're now 15 wins in a row, 8-0 to start the season. We'll start with the D's. How good were they against the Saints? I watched this game and I was almost jealous of how good they were. And when you're playing against a team like the D's, you just can't concede. You can't afford to concede the first 4 goals of the game because you are so far behind the 8 ball, particularly against the Ds. It's really not funny. It's almost impossible to catch up. Yeah, West Coast, I'd almost say they probably would take that performance because we were all expecting a record score. Some of us were expecting a record winning margin, a record smashing, but 75 points, that's almost nothing for the Eagles. That's good for them. Hopefully the Ds, they don't usually do this, but hopefully they can play 4 quarters of footy and play at their best, or at least try to. Because if they play, let's just say how they did against the Dogs in the second half of their grand final, this would genuinely be a 200 plus point smashing. So Melbourne for me in this one, pretty obvious. They're winning this game by 77 points, I reckon. And a big call will be that the Ds restrict West Coast to 3 goals or less. Alrighty guys, those are my tips for round 8, or round 9 I should say. Let's go to the leaderboard to see how the tipsters have been performing in my competition. Banger Harvey continues his dominance in the comp with 75 points leading. Nick Dacus official also in second, and Lion Boldo. Then we got the other people on 74s and 73s doing quite well. Where's Ryder Henshey? He did well last time. He's dropped to... He's not even in the first page. Well, for the first time on all this round, no one tipped a perfect round. I don't think anyone gave the Suns a chance. That's probably why. We have Aston Motta, Ali Merez, who tipped 8. So those were my tips for round 9. That was my tipping comp. 954 people in the tipping comp. So again, I said it earlier, 1,000 tippers is what we want to try and get by the end of the year, but maybe even by like round 11, round 12. If you want to join the tipping comp, yeah, link in description, link in the pinned comment. So I set a little bit of a goal. If this video, for whatever reason, can either get 10k views, or I'm going to go very, very ambitious, 1k likes by this time next week, I'll give away 13 packs of footy cards in a video next round, and I'll spin a wheel for those who want the footy cards. So you got to like the video, obviously subscribe if you haven't already, share it to a friend, and you can be in the running. So comment down below if you've done all that, and yeah, I'll see you soon in my next video. Appreciate all the support. We'll see you soon.